On this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News, take a look back at SCATV over the last decade with Executive Director Wendy Blom. Welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Heather Avison. Tonight we're going to spend the half hour looking back over the last 11 years with Executive Director Wendy Blom. She arrived in 2004 and has just left SCATV to pursue other adventures. Thank you for spending a little time with us before you head out from SCATV. Start out by telling us how you got involved in television to begin with.
Well, I had a very varied career before I came to SCATV. I was first a modern dancer. I got a master's in dance from the University of Colorado and did that for 10 years. Loved being a dancer in Cambridge and was in several dance companies. Then after I had my second child, it was just, I didn't want to do it anymore. It was too hard to be competitive and keep in shape and also give time to my children. So I wanted to go into something else, and my sister said, well, why don't you do video dance? And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So I explored that in my local cable station in Needham and really loved the video and decided I didn't want to just dance, I wanted to talk too. So I volunteered there for a while and then was employed in Access for a little bit and then went back and got my master's degree in mass communications from Emerson in 1991. And after that, I spent about 5 years in the commercial market in Boston working as a production assistant, associate producer at the Monitor Channel, at WLVI and WCVB.
So what was Somerville like in 2004 when you came, and what was SCATV like?
Somerville was very different in 2004 than it is now. When I came in, the city was still dealing with issues around gang violence, especially gangs from El Salvador. They were in Boston also, but there was some gang activity here in Somerville. There was teen pregnancy, there was drug addiction, there were, urban ills were here in Somerville pretty strongly. So SCAT was involved in that, and I'll say SCAT because that's what we were known for 30 years. Known as. So we were dealing with some issues and really community service and getting the word out of underserved populations was our mission. And SCAT was doing that pretty well. SCAT had a very good reputation when I came in. It had won several awards before and was well known. It was the first access center in Massachusetts and had kind of an activist persona. So I was so excited to get this job here, and I just loved working with immigrants. I had worked with immigrants a lot in Lowell, and that was my favorite part of the job. So when I came in, immigrants were a pretty strong force here at SCAT. We had a lot of Haitian programs. We had a former youth program person, his name was Ekle Pompilis, who just really took well to video, and he was kind of a part-time staff. He would come and cover one Saturday a month, and he was also given permission to keep the place open on Saturday nights for 3 hours of live Haitian programming. So every Saturday night there would be all sorts of things in here, talk shows, a lot of music, a lot of kids were in here, all speaking Creole, and that was really cool. There were other Haitian programs too. Gerard Compel, who still occasionally produces a program here, did a show. And there were Brazilian shows, especially run by churches. A lot of kids coming in doing singing and stuff in the studio. There were more church programs in other languages here. In the early days of Access, it was very much first come, first serve. People who arrived had the right to produce anything, but staff were pretty much hands-off. And the idea was that this place was for the residents and not for staff to produce programs. And when I came in, there was still a lot of that mentality going on, and so most of the programs were produced by volunteers. Actually, staff produced very few programs, but we had lots of active members who really cared about getting their word out. There was a program called Grand Union that was on for many, many years here in the hot set. Two very old gentlemen, one was blind, the other one was deaf, pretty much. And they came and they talked about Somerville, they talked about the old times and the new times, and a lot of people really liked that show. It was great, and that was on for quite a while, until they both kind of got sicker. Let's see, and there were some other great shows. Well, Dead Air Live. When I came in 2004, I had heard about Dead Air Live. It was run by the Somerville Producers Group, and it's the longest running public access show in the world. Started in 1973, I believe, before there was SCATV. And every other week on Tuesday nights, they would go live at 8 o'clock.
Hi everybody, this is Bill, the producer of tonight's program with the Somerville Producers Group. There's been a lot of major market media ratings hype about H1N1. Every time you watch the news, you get something like this. Jeez, you'd think the world was gonna end. Well, tonight, instead, we decided to take a more reasoned approach and talk with some folks who deal with this every day.
It was such a lively group. There were, I don't know, there were probably at least 15 of them came every other week to do a live show, and then the other week they would meet and plan. It was really great. You never knew what the show was going to be. They took turns producing, and it could be talk shows, music, strange video art, or who knows. And that was wonderful. Dead Air Live has kind of diminished over the last couple years, but they're still hoping that more people will join. Another long-time program is Greater Somerville, and this is really a key program because people watch it. It's all about mostly politics in Somerville, and people need to hear the candidates talk about what's important to them and what they would do if they came into office, and it allows them to speak their mind without being censored or without using only sound bites. They can say whatever they want for quite a while, and that's been really important. We've been doing candidate forums. Joe Lynch does interview shows. Plus, when there is no election going on and no candidates to interview, he and his co-host, Kyanna Anderson, bring in people who are active in the community doing things in the community as part of their show. So that's a really fabulous show.
How is the technology different in 2004?
Okay. Well, the technology has certainly changed over the years. When I came in, they were just starting to get some computers in here. There were 2 computers for editing, but most people were still editing reel-to-reel, well, cassette to cassette, using VHS, Super VHS tapes. We had Edit Suite number 3 with 2 cassette deck editors in there, and people could also edit in the studio, also using 3/4-inch tapes. But people were starting to learn to use iMovie on Macs. And I had come in knowing iMovie and Final Cut Pro, so I never edited again on Super VHS. But little by little, we transitioned away from that. Soon there was only one person editing with it, and we had to sort of say, that's it. But people really liked the computer editing. And then we changed the studio. We bought new cameras in the studio, a new control room, and upgraded that to digital. The hot set, we reorganized and put a new desk in here. That again was still analog. And then over the last 3 years, we've gone totally HD. Redid the studio again with a computer switcher and all HD cameras, and linking everything through Ethernet. And just in 2014, we redid the small studio again to make it all HD. When I came in, my goal was to make this a welcoming place. There was a little bit of a tight-knit staff group here when I got here, and that was something the board really didn't like, and I think that's why they wanted a new director. because the staff would hang out together, they would go to movies and spend time together, and it was sort of an us versus members kind of feel. And when I came in, my goal was to make it a welcoming place, to change that whole mentality, and also to be welcoming to immigrants. So the first thing I did was buy a big poster board and strips of colored paper, and whenever anybody came in that spoke a different language, I would have them write in big letters on the colored paper, "Welcome to SCATV" in their language. And then I put them all onto this big poster board and hung it right above the equipment room door where people could see it as soon as they came in. So anybody who came in would see their language up there and know that they were welcome. So that was my goal, and I think people did feel welcome. And over the years, we've had many changes of staff. Some great, some not so great. That's certainly the hardest part of being a director is hiring and keeping great staff. But we did have some wonderful people. And I think we did create a welcoming environment here.
What did you look for when you were hiring staff, besides the basic knowledge that they needed to know, but to create that welcoming place, what did you look for?
Well, I looked for people who liked people. That was important, people who liked people and wanted to help people. And then skills were good. Certainly video production skills were important. I was always looking for people who liked to work with children, because using our youth program was always important. Ever since the beginning of SCATV, they've been working with youth. Boards of directors are so important because even though it seems like they might not be doing much, they're the total connection with the community, and they're the support of the executive director. The first board chair I had who brought me in was the most wonderful person. His name was Dale Patterson, and he used to work at Cass as a fundraiser, and he was so supportive and kind of served as my mentor, because he knew I hadn't been an executive director before. And he was great. And unfortunately, just a few years after he left SCATV and his term was over, he passed away very suddenly, leaving 2 young boys and his wife, and it was such a loss to the community. He was so great. I was hoping that he would be president again. After Dale, Candace Dostaire, who was a community member who had been a little bit active at SCAT, but not that active. Pat Garrity, who had served on the board in the very beginning. She came back and was president. And I really felt that the board cheered me on and watched my back and was a liaison to the community and brought in people that they knew to produce interesting programs. It was wonderful to have a great board. We would laugh in staff meetings and just have fun, because we were all on the same page and wanted the same things.
What are the different elements of a board that make it a great board?
Well, a board should have people on it who are not out for their own personal gain, and that's why it's important to have we have to have 4 members who are on the board who represent the membership, but they shouldn't be people who are so active that they're concerned with buying equipment that's going to be benefiting their show, or just are self-serving. They should have the whole organization in mind. And then other than that, the only other requirement for the board is that somebody represent the city, so the mayor or the Office of Communication appoints somebody. And then it's community representatives, and the best boards are those who represent nonprofits that play an integral role in the community, who have a clientele that could benefit from SCAT and can kind of direct them here so that we can help their missions. So if we can help nonprofit missions, that's really the best thing we can do. Telemagazine is a long-running program, another Haitian program in Creole that has been on the channel since before I got here. It's also in Boston, another in Cambridge. Mario Archer is here every week producing his show, an hour every single week. which is pretty amazing. Yeah, he just does his thing, and it's been going on forever.
When someone comes in with an idea for a show, how do you work with them to create that show? Because yes, it's the mission to bring people in and have them do their own shows, but it's hard to walk in off the street and suddenly create a TV show.
Well, we provide, because the channel is why we were formed and how we get our money from the cable companies, getting programs on the channel is very important. So we provide access to anybody in Somerville to training, equipment, and facilities for them to use to make programs for the channel. So when someone comes in and says, you know, I really want to do a dating game show, we'll say, that sounds great. How do you envision it? Is it a studio show, or are you going to do it in the field, or are you going to do both? And then once they sort of work through the idea of how they want it to look, we'll encourage them to take the classes that will get them the training they need to do it, and then help them get crew and help them sort of get their show off the ground. So we guide people all the way through. Some people need a lot of guidance, and some people get the training and then just go for it and can do their own show. Now we have a producer, Jeff Jam, who does the Jeff Jam Sing-Song Show. It's pretty much of a monthly show, although sometimes he takes a hiatus, and he gets toddlers in here and does programs that are just wonderful. He puts a lot of effort into making each of his shows look different with a different set, and he has his friends come in, some of whom are dressed in big bear costumes and dance around, and others play the flute, and they're all dressed for kids. And they do a sing-song show, and it's wonderful. And Jeff came in knowing that he wanted to do this. He took the studio class, he took the field production class, but couldn't quite pull it all together, and so staff helped him for a while and did the editing for a while, and then said, it's yours, and now he's totally independent, gets his own crew, does his own editing, and puts it up on the channel and on his website. One of the most rewarding parts of this job is bringing people in here and kind of nurturing their dream. That is so much fun, because I can get enthusiastic about any kind of program, unless it's hateful. I don't want to do hateful programs, but if it's something that people love and are passionate about, I can get behind them and encourage them however I can and give them support until they can take it and run with it. In the last 5 years, we've had some new initiatives that have really made a difference here at SCATV. We had a staff member, Bill Burrell, who was very technical, and he was a former DJ, and he loved radio, even though he was a TV person and had worked at Fox and everything. And he came to me and he said, we should do a radio station here. And even though we can't get any over-the-air frequencies, because they're all used up here in Boston, we should do an internet radio station. And he figured it out, and he named it, and he came up with the policies, and I said, go for it, let's do it. And we took over one of the back rooms to make it a studio, and we started Boston Free Radio.
A little bit of Perry Mason meets Dracula here on the Pop Explosion with Joe Vig. We're going to play Wedding Bell Blues by the Fifth Dimension.
And it was amazing. I have to say, I was just floored by how successful it was from the get-go, because Bill had it figured out. And our first orientation for new members, there were about 30 people here who were so excited and stepped up to volunteer. It was going to be an all-volunteer radio station. People would take turns being on the board, organizing the DJs, doing training sessions, and managing media and interfacing with Live 365, which is the platform that we use. And it just went so well. It was really great. Then Bill left. He retired, actually. He moved to Arizona. And Jessica Barnthouse took it on as part of her job. She was our membership person. And it went great continues, and it continues today. Now we're realizing that it needs more staff support, and hopefully very soon we'll be hiring a radio staff person who can shepherd it through and make it a little more professional and really grow it into a stronger program, and improve the facility too, because people love radio. Even if they don't get a lot of listeners, they still love doing it and sharing their music or sharing their ideas with their friends, and it really is part of our mission to enable free speech. It's a total free speech venue. We don't tell people what they can say, what kind of show is good or not. People can come in and do whatever kind of show that they want. So that was a great initiative. That was about 4 years ago. And then just 2 years ago, I was seeing that there were fewer and fewer people coming in wanting to volunteer to cover community events and get us out there, and I felt that we were more and more isolated. And so I thought we should do a news program and really make it a wonderful way to explain to people what's going on in the city and add to the print journalism that's here. We have 3 newspapers in the city. But it was a way for SCATV to get out in the community, to show that we're there, concerned, and also cover things that were important and be an independent voice for news in Somerville. And so I hired Jane Regan, who was a journalist, to come in and start up the program.
Hello, and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Jenner Barrington Ward.
And I'm Andrew McLeod. Today is October 29th, and this is our very first newscast.
And she got interns from local colleges, and training interns was so important because they were going to be the reporters. And plus, getting on-the-job training in schools is really so important, and they just ate it up. Because if they're being an intern at a local news outlet, generally they're getting coffee or they're, doing things that are not that creative and challenging. So here they did everything, and it was very challenging, but very difficult to work with interns because they're only here for 3 months. You have to train them, and just as they're getting going, of course, they're leaving. However, I think that the city has really appreciated having this news program. And then when Jane left, I hired Heather Avison, who's been fantastic and has kept the quality of the show up. And hopefully this will keep going because I think it's a vital part of SCATV. There are so many challenges to SCATV right now, most of them out of its control. For one thing, the development of Union Square is causing a lot of displacement, and that will accelerate as things happen here. The mayor has always told me that he wanted to sell the building. In fact, right from the beginning, I have expected that we would be moving. We've been here the 11 years that I've been here, and probably another 3, but who knows? Maybe we won't move. But so the building, but it wouldn't necessarily be terrible to leave this building because it's so old and it has a lot of challenges, and really the programs that go on here could use more space. But meanwhile, while we're here, the building needs to be spruced up. Because so much of our projects now are digital and are on the web as well as the channel, we need to broaden our image in the community to show that we're very much of a digital internet organization as well. We have moved a lot of our programs to the web for on-demand viewing, and very much with the times as far as that. But the channel is the basis for why we're here, and we're so excited that in the fall we'll probably be getting a portion of an HD channel on RCN. Hopefully Comcast eventually will give the city some HD channels because that's what people are watching now. As long as you stay on the analog channels down at Channel 3, which used to be like prime place, people aren't watching those channels anymore. So you're going to disappear. And I think that we sort of have disappeared. But once we're at channel 613 in HD, I think people will start watching. And the best channel, the best programming in the city is going to be put up on that channel. So that's going to be important. And certainly beefing up radio is going to be important. And improving our youth program. I would hope that the next leadership will create a space for young people to experiment with all different kinds of media and our computers, and have access to production software for creating websites, creating animation, creating video, and just have it be a real forward-looking place. This is something that our current youth programs coordinator has suggested, and I was very enthusiastic about moving that forward. I'll be leaving SCATV as the executive director in August, and I have to say it's been my dream job. It's been so much fun. I just love Somerville. It's been just such a great place, and I've met so many wonderful people. I certainly hope that SCATV continues and is successful going forward with all the challenges it's going to face. And I'll be watching.
Thank you for being here with us tonight, Wendy. Thank you for all that you've done for SCATV and for Somerville over the last 11 years. We hope you'll come back and visit. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another edition of Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Heather Avison. Good night.